Well, a big game for the Dragons this week, as it is every week, I suppose. A real disappointing loss to Treviso in Italy last week. I don't think many people would have expected that, but you have to recognise that Treviso do have a much bigger budget than the Dragons. They're in a poor place at the moment, the Dragons. Coming home, they're going to be live on Scrum 5 on TV, and Glasgow are a difficult side. They have a lot of success at Rodney Parade in the future, so a tough one for Kingsley Jones's men, and I can't see him beating Glasgow. Well, Ulster, I was out in Ulster a couple of weeks ago to see them beat the Scarlets. What a great place to play, Kingspan Stadium. And the Ospreys, should learn their lessons from last week. Gave too many penalties away, gave the field position, allowed Leinster to get into the game early on, and it's not the recipe when you go to Ireland. The same applies in Belfast for Ulster, who have a lot of their internationals back this week, but so too the Ospreys. I think Dan Biggar will play again. Steve Tandy will need to get him up and running. Rhys Webb needs to hit a little bit of form, and I think this is going to be a heavyweight challenge and a real close game. I can't call it at the moment. Well, the Blues are 4 from 4, riding high, albeit they've had some narrow wins, and they have been playing well under Danny Wilson and Matt Sherratt, who incidentally should get congratulations for his call-up to the Welsh national team for the autumn. This is a big game because it's a real test now. Leinster off the back of a resounding win really against the Ospreys, and I think this will really show us where the Blues really are before their other next test, which will be the Ospreys down at the Liberty Stadium. Now, I still think they can do it. I think they can beat a Leinster side. If they take the recipe of the Ospreys' second half last week, they can beat Leinster. Well, I was at the Scarlets game at Parc y Scarlets last week in dreadful conditions against a real tenacious and tough Connacht side who were looking for a win, and the Scarlets prevailed, and I think it's going to give them the confidence that they need, particularly the likes of Rhys Patchell and Jonathan Davis and co. So they may have Gareth Davis back at scrum half, which will be a huge fillip for them, but as it showed with the Dragons last week, going Treviso is not an easy matter, but I still think they'll have enough. If the conditions are good, the Scarlets go into it with confidence, they can get a win and really kickstart their season now. Well, the two other games obviously involve some of the other Celtic nations. Connacht, I think, now improved in their performance last week against the Scarlets, and Edinburgh, quite frankly, been very disappointing. I think Connacht will win in Galway this week. As for the Munster men, well, they dispatched Edinburgh last week 28-14, and I think it's going to be a foregone conclusion. I think they'll easily beat Zebra and move themselves up the table. Well, another exciting week in the Aviva Premiership last week. Lots of tries. Saracens losing their first game of the season to Harlequins, who haven't played that well. It makes for another intriguing weekend. On Friday night, my old club Bristol, who do they have to play? None other than Saracens. Defeated last week by Harlequins. I think Saracens will have way too much for the men of Bristol. A huge game at Northampton as Exeter Chiefs, who've been revived under Rob Baxter. They go to Northampton renewed in confidence, and I think they might just have enough, even though George North seems to be getting on fire right at the right time. Sale and Leicester, it's a tricky one for Mike Phillips' men. Leicester had another good win last week, so I think Leicester could just kickstart their season now and push themselves into the top 4. The West Country derby sees Bath travel to Gloucester. Bath had a bit of an upset, bit of an embarrassment last week after their early form, but Gloucester too, drawing at home last week to Newcastle, they won't like that in the shed. I think Bath might just do it at the Kingsholm Stadium. Wasps flying high at the top under Dai Young, going really well. Another fantastic away performance and a win. Rode their luck at times, but they are really on form. And they go home to Coventry to play Quins, who are up and down a little bit and will have too much for them, I feel. Worcester Warriors take on Newcastle. This would have been deemed as a bottom of the table clash early on, but both sides have picked up useful points already in the Premiership. It's a massive 8-pointer, if you like, and I think Worcester Warriors will have too much at 6 ways. So there's a roundup of the Pro 12 and the Aviva Premiership games for this weekend. Don't forget you can tune in to some of my blogs, something for the 40-somethings, particularly this Saturday's, where you'll see Phil Davis on a walk with me.